All right, tournament style puzzle solving. So interesting. We have okay. Well, let's see. Checks and captures. No checks. There is a veiled discovered check threat with the rook on e5 and the pawn on d4. Captures, you have like rook takes e6, rook takes f5, and that is all. Piece contacts, stuff like d5. That's basically it. So the question to me that jumps out directly is that it's like we need to move the rook and then the d-pawn for this double discovery. But the question is, what is the most advantageous way to achieve said goal? We have one of the things we can do is play d5 first, and then knight takes d5, loses to rook takes d5, discovered check. Game over. So he can't do that. The thing with d5 is that d5 threatens a pawn fork at d6. So he cannot take d5 with the knight. He cannot take with e takes d5 because rook takes wins a rook for nothing. Wins a rook for a pawn. That's not too good. We also have, so you can play c takes d5. Then what can we do? That's a good question. d5, c takes d5. We could play rook takes. Actually, you can play rook takes, you know, e6, or we can play, which is check. Actually, that's a nasty check. Rook takes e6, check. Rook takes e6, check. If he goes king f7, rook to f6, check. And, you know, king to g7 would be just, you know, suicidal, I think. Because you step into another discovery. You know, something along the lines of just, you know, basic stuff. Like, I don't know, rook takes c6 check would be good. Rook takes f5 check would be good. So, d5, c takes d5, rook captures e6 check, king to f7, I don't think is the right move, but I'm just going through it. King f7, rook f6 check, king g8. Oh, king g8, we can play rook takes g6 check if we want to. Oh no, he can't go to g8, he has to go to f8. Because we got a double attack there. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, he's on f7, I went rook f6 check, king g8, yes, that makes sense. Rook takes g8 check, we're cleaning this guy's clock. Again, if he goes to f7 or f8, you know, rook to f6 check, and we begin again chopping the a pawn, and then starting the whole win. This is a pseudo windmill, but man, it's devastation. So d5, c takes d5. This is just rook takes e6 check. King f8, I think, is the better move. At least that was my gut reaction. King f8, rook f6 check. Now he could play like rook f7, but then we'd hit him with like rook takes e8 check, knight takes, or king takes, doesn't matter. Takes king takes e8, rook captures g6 again, and leaves him with 1, 2, a pawn on d5, 3, 4, 5 pawns. We've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're winning 2 pawns here. That was just one example of d5. I don't think rook can move first. Like rook takes e6 check probably fails. I don't know. Rook takes e6 check. It's not check, sorry. Rook takes e6, rook takes e6. d5 check. He could play well, heck, he could play king f7 or rook to e5. If he goes king f7, we get pawn takes rook check. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pawns to 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's got 6. And we traded off 1 rook each. So we're a pawn up, but that pawn is a you know, well, it's a weakened passer. I don't think rook takes e6 is good because we're not enough material. d5 gets you more material because he also has in the tournament. He has 3 ways to take it, 2 of which lose outright. You know, e takes and knight takes just get destroyed instantly. So in my thinking, I think d5 is better. But even if they were even, d5 would be better because there's a practicality that you might get a break. It's a slim chance, but it's possible. So I'm satisfied. And I was correct. So, you see, I take rook takes e6 because you see this cleans the 6th rank. And instead of taking here and then come back and pounding on this guy, because he's got 3 guys, make it 4, you'll never get this e-pawn. You get this now or you never get it. It's, you know, your choice. So here again, check, he goes there. I mean, this isn't the biggest, you know, score in town, but it's pretty good. He takes, king takes g6. I mean, rook takes g6, rook takes g6, and he has 2, 3, 4, 5, like I counted, 3, 4, 5, 6. We only have 1 pawn. We've got 1 pawn, but the difference is his pawn on e6 would be untouchable if we went and took the d5 pawn. So that in itself, like I said, if they were even, the e pawn cannot be allowed to live. This d pawn is super weak, and our bishop is just, you know, ready to blockade at any time, or play bishop e5 followed by bishop d6. Which, you know, our rook and bishop are strong. Even though this is a weak bishop, blocked by multiple pawns, he's going to be strong where he needs to be, and that's f4 to d6. So, now what can we do? Well, right off the bat, I see knight g4 check because the queen is guarding g7. He cannot escape. At least not in that direction. So, I mean, just my gut reaction is knight g4 check. You know, king to h5 is forced. And then something, you know, like, I don't know, queen g2. With the threat of playing like knight to f2, which would threaten, you know, instantaneous mate. Or actually we have knight g8 check. Oh, I'm sorry, not knight g4, knight g8 check. Knight g8 check. Is that the right move? Knight to g8? That's a good question. Man, I don't know. It's like knight g8 check is okay. Knight g4 check gets in way of the in front of his king, but knight g8 check lets us play queen g2 instantly, threatening mate. And I don't really see a good response for him. See, knight g4, our knight is in the way, blocking our abuse of the king. You know, we have to make another move. We go to queen g2 and make another move to get out to threaten to make a check. I'm like, yeah, does this seem too logical? So knight g8 check, king h5, queen g2 threatens mate on two different squares, g4 and g5. So I don't know, how does this guy defend? Queen to h4. Queen to h4 would do it. Oh, and then no, okay, queen to h4 is fine. We check him with the knight again. Knight to f6 check. King h6 is the only move. Knight g4 check. What is he doing? Knight g4 check. King, king to h5. And then we could play probably queen to e2. Oh no, we got to watch out. The queen to f3. We cannot allow him to play queen to g3 check. It's got to be this move. And then we go ahead like we planned. Oh, he just gives up right here. Thank you. We'll take it, sir. So that one, like I said, was the comparison between clogging up the attacking lanes with knight g4, and I preferred knight g8 because it just forced him here, and this just had clean lanes of mating. So once again, oh good grief, Charlie Brown, what is this guy's deal? He's threatening my rook. That's my dad's famous rule. What is this guy doing? He's threatening to take my rook. Why can't I just play queen takes d7 check? We have sacrificed a rook for an attack. That's answer number one. We have to take that knight. But, oh, well, we have queen takes knight check, king b8. He ain't taking any rook because it's on instantaneous checkmate. But we could also play queen e8 check, queen d8, queen takes f7, threatening his rook. But he would be able to play rook g7, which I don't like. So, what about if we play bishop takes? I don't think that move's any good. Let's look at this again. Queen takes d7 check seems obviously good. And then it seems like we need to be doing something like, oh, I don't know, e5. I don't know, maybe that doesn't do anything. Good question. Check. Goes in the b8, queen to e8. I just don't know if that's the right move. We'd be in exchange ahead. I mean behind, sorry. We are in exchange down. And I don't see the specific okie dokie. I don't see the specific winning move here. Queen takes knight, king b8. Well, we have some interesting moves. Maybe. Queen check. Oh no. Hold on. Queen check, queen d8. Oh, hell no. You can't play queen d8. Just checkmating him. What the heck is this? Isn't this just checkmate? $2,600? Who gave this problem $2,600? This problem was not hard, man. I felt like an idiot that I was thinking he was going to go to queen to d8, and you know, and if you go back and check the video, see what the timestamp is. I had queen to d8, and I was just mentally blocked that I couldn't see that it was checkmate. So that's not a $2,600 problem. You can call it $2,600, but that's an easy problem. Sorry, dude. I mean, it's like he's staring. Queen takes knight check, staring you in the face. Check, boom, checkmate. I was just mentally off to not see it much faster. Okay, this could be dangerous. All right, you know the deal. Checks, captures, piece contacts, situation. So checks, rook, well, rook e1, I mean rook e8 check, rook d7 check, which, you know, is I think the obvious move. To me, rook to d7 check is just freaking obvious because he can't do jack. Now he's threatening to take our knight and then queen that dadgum pawn. So the question is, we have got to be able to make hay and get going. But we got a problem, is that our knight is pinned by the freaking bishop. So anyway, rook d7 check. He has one legal move, my favorite. King to f8. So I don't know, man. King to f8 is fine. He doesn't really get anything. The question is king to f8. We could go rook f7 check, but I just don't see where this is really getting us anything special. I don't think rook f7 is the right move because that's helping him. That moves his king out of the way of his own pawn. So I'd say, for example, I don't know, rook d7 check, king f8, king c6. The point being, if he takes the knight, king takes bishop. He moves out of the way. King to say, oh, I don't know, f8, and then I go king e6 and he's screwed. So he could play, well, rook checks on d7, king f8, king c6. He could play f7. No, because I would just play rook takes f7. He's toast. This is the obvious move. We've got this guy. Oh, what the heck? Is he double attacking me, you jerk? Well, I don't like this either. I want to play king to d8, but he'll just take my knight. So, he's got to take my knight, though. We've got to play king c6. It's forced. Okay, we have basically a couple of moves. What is the killer? Check. King to what? Oh, rook f7 check. King e8, so you can queen his pawn. King d6, f7. la 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 la. I'm thinking if give me a second here. Check king to e8, king d6, f7, rook e7 check. Yes, you're dead. Watch this, I got him. If he goes this way, rook a7 mates him. He went that way, I just cleaned his clock. No problems. Hopefully you saw that. This is a great example of, what do you call this? Deductive logic. Can't move the knight. He's going to queen this, so we had to take this with check just to get her off the board. Okay, so we did this, deduced that this is the only move. Throwing your pawn away and wasting a move does nothing. Alright? I'm just showing you, in addition to straight chess calculation, we can also make these decisions with just pure logic. So again, I wanted, my feeling, my chess feeling is to go king d8, but we just lose a piece. We can't do that. So again, nothing move and a nothing move. Logic says this. King c8 does nothing. It has the same problem that d8 has. d8 is threatening to get to this pawn. So logic says king c6. The alternatives, pawn move, king move, they're all so bad. This has to be the best move. Even if you can't calculate this out, you don't have to. The other four moves are all so bad, obviously, that the last move has to be the best move. You don't have to be a good player to make king to c6. You just have to have enough brain power to logically look at the sequence. So you don't have to be a great player to make this move. Now the other move, the other ones I'm going to show you have to be strong in chess. Again, it doesn't take a genius to tell that, well, he took my knight, I better take his bishop. Again, pure logic. You know, and something that kids can understand this. He took my knight, I'm taking his bishop. A kid can understand this. All right? Now we're getting to the point where you have to understand in chess terms, he's going to queen that pawn if we don't stop it. And there's a trick that I visualized, which you saw, which was the rook to e7 check. So this check is designed to make him go here in blocking his own pawn, which is bad, or he's going to play here because he's not going to block his pawn because it's bad. So again, he has one move that's good, which is this one. And you know I love that. It's easy to calculate. So when he does that, I'm coming here. I already saw that he's going to push his pawn, and I'm going to check him, and I'm going to put him in Zugzwang. So we win this game by understanding the concept of Zugzwang, which is the German term that means you're forced to make a bad move. So, okay, he goes there, king comes over. I gotta get this pawn. He's pretty much toast. He can't allow me to go king to e6 because then I play rook f7 and it's over. He has only one move. Now he has only one move. Garbage, 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 f7. That's his best move. And then this is where I envisioned that I realized that check in the end game with kings and pawns and kings and rooks, one of the things you have to understand, and my high school team chess coach was a very good player, super smart guy. One of the few things he did not ever really teach us a lot of these specific end games. He would mention them and whatever, but you know, I'm not putting this. This is not a blame. This is just a statement of fact that he didn't think of it. I guess himself is that when you study these king and pawn end games with rooks or kings, pawns, and rooks, one of the threats you will make in these end games, and even when you have like two minor pieces, you're going to make threats sometimes that is a checkmate. So that's what this rook to e7 check does. It looks like an idiot move. What are you checking him for? You got to stop the pawn. Well, I'm going to stop the pawn because either the check forces him into, he's now in Zugzwang. If he moves here, he blocks his pawn. And I go king e6 and just, you know, a third grader will eat this pawn. It's not a difficult thing. But you have to see that rook e7 if threatens that if he goes to here, you've got rook a7 or, you know, which threatens checkmate. That's the key of rook d7. He goes here because this move here, oh, I'm sorry, he can't go here. I just take the pawn. I was thinking super clever. My move works also, but rook to a7. If he, oh no, he could not. I could not do rook a7. It's rook takes pawn. Duh. I would have seen this. It's not a problem. Okay, but I was visualizing this conceptually, which was wrong. But I would have seen if he goes king d8. I would say, oh, I just take your pawn. Okay, so this is what happens. We threatened a checkmate as well as taking his pawn. So, you know, that's whatever. So, terrific. 4 in a row. I am on fire. Don't think it was 2,500, but, you know, whatever they say, man. Oh, geez, what is this guy doing? He's trying to take my bishop. I mean, you see those 2 rooks on the 7th rank, you know, automatically the spidey senses go off. You know, rook takes bishop is coming. Okay, so we go, let's just go check. Brute force this guy with rook check, king f2, queen h4 check. He can't put anything in the way, really, can he? Rook h1 check, king f2, rook, queen h4 check, g3. It just looks bad, dude. F takes g check. I mean, come on. And then he would play what? Actually, you know, F takes g check may not be the move. Leave that there to guard e3. G3, I would just play rook to h2 check. Forces him goes to the back to go. Forces him to go to the back rank, like rook to f1. I mean king to f1. Sorry, king to f1, and oh, that pawn is still on g3. Good. Yes, rook to f1, queen to h3 check. He's getting brutalized. Well, maybe not. King to g1. Wait a second. Yeah. No, my rook is there. King to g1. Rook. No, I can't play that move. I'm losing it. I got to redo it. Rook h1, king f2. Queen h4 check. g3. It just looks really bad. I'm gonna take this pawn check just to see, because I like this discovery with this bishop. So I'm gonna change this to f takes g3 check. Let's say, I don't know. Yeah, let's say, oh yeah, king. If he goes king to e3, we have. We could play rook to e1 check, but oh, actually we have, yeah, that's okay. Rook h1 check, king f2, that's forced. Queen h4 check. Queen h4 check, g3 looks to be so bad for him that he probably would not play it. A human player would probably not play it, but we got to calculate it anyway. That's the problem. Queen h4 check, g3. Right. We go check. I mean, F takes G3 check. Might be mega devastating. Queen to E3, king to E3. We could just play Queen G5 check. What am I thinking about? This guy could be in major league trouble. So that just looks terrible. Queen H4 check. What if he goes King E2? King to E2. Well, that's interesting. Oh, King to E2, we'd have Rook to E1 check because that Queen's on H4 diagonally, protecting it. And he'd lose. This is the winning comment. The question is, man, in a real tournament game, I'd have to spend time on G3. But the computer is going to tell us, this in this case, check, King F2, Queen check. This may be the best move. But if it isn't, you know, then the check back here, King E2, Rook E1 check wins this rook. So it's going to tell us right off what's good and what's not. I'm cheating technically by my own rules. This is losing. We'd have to figure out how it's losing. That's what this computer is telling us, that this G3 is a losing move. He's dead. So like I said, now normally I say my rules are we're going to do this like tournament style. We're going to go through this. It's so complicated. It's too late tonight. I'm like, man, I got you logically. I'm going to use logic to my favor. Rook E1 check, you lose. Or, but before I play this move, actually, Queen E1 check is also strong. But I don't know if I'm actually mating him. I am not mating him because even if he can go back with Rook to E4, so it's got to be Rook checks, and it is. You know, so if I went Queen checks, he would go to D3, Bishop here. He could go back here. I mean, whatever. But he's dead. He's on fire. All right, 5-0 right there. That was butt kicking. Okay, but I'm gonna admit I did fudge the rules. Made a couple of moves and then decided what I was gonna do because it was just too much complications. I admit it up front that I had to quasi break the rules to use my logic powers to let the machine tell us whether or not G3 absolutely loses, which it obviously does. Otherwise, it would have played G3 because I mean I saw this was easily crushing. Once I realized that I have access to E1 with Rook E1 check, and I'm forking, I'm gonna X-ray this guy because I got a queen fork. He was toast. So that was a terrific sequence of problems, as you will definitely admit. What did we beat here? We beat, this was 2251, 2131, 2600, but that was overrated. It's not 2600, I'm telling you. I mean, I'm actually taking away from my own glory saying this 2600 that I beat is not a 2600. It was much lower. It's 21 something, dude. It's not, you know, whatever. 2530, that was a legitimately difficult problem. The one where it was the end game where I figured out all the stuff by logic, and then, you know, I beat him chess-wise really at the end, but it was mostly, I was beating him with both chess and with logic. And then this was 2475. This one I thought was, this was harder by far than that 2600 three-mover. This problem was super easy. I mean, come on, dude. Can't I just take it? Yes, I can. Well, you know, he's going to take our rook. I just, you know, boom, boom, boom. 3 moves. Once you take the knight on the board, you're like, well, I'm going to check you again, and you're checkmated. This is not 2600. This might be 1600, okay? Like I said, I'm undercutting my own achievement instead of bragging and saying, yes, I kicked a 2600 problem. I'm like, dude, that problem was trash. So this problem was much more difficult than that previous problem, that fake 2600. This was a much tougher problem. You had to, there's a lot of stuff you had to figure out. You had to figure out how not to lose your knight. Not super difficult, but you still gotta do it. Then you gotta figure out how to, you know, get your way to get to this pawn. So how many moves is this? This is a good question. That's what he played. We go. Remember, your moves always win on an odd number. So when you make your move first in a combination when you're winning, that's an odd, and you're going to finish it on an odd number unless he resigns on an even number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, well, he resigned. 15 is we take his pawn, and it is dead. It's dead over, and we're going to checkmate this guy summarily. Okay, so that was a 15 mover plus a checkmate coming. Much more difficult than that 3 mover. This one I thought also was challenging. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes, but this one was over at 7. When you go rook e1 check, your opponent's going to resign. He will play one more move at the most. Because when you make sequential combination moves like this, your opponent knows he just got annihilated, and whatever, bro. So they're not going to, you know, continue on, because they can see the beating. Once they realize that you've got the queen attacking that e7 rook, and that rook e1 comes from behind, they're like, I resign. They know that they were well, the thing is, your opponent, who's also a tournament player, is good enough to understand that you played some really good moves. Okay, this wasn't one of those luck things or whatever. This was like, oh yeah, man, this, you know, it's like, man, this guy was just better than me today. All right, that's the deal. So that was, you know, man, this was an awesome sequence for me. I mean, it was just absolutely awesome. So, I mean, I had a great time. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Man, tell your buddies. This is killer stuff. So, you guys know what to do. I'll talk to you later.